Kyle, hey, appreciate the time that you took to meet with me today. You know, obviously we talked through a lot of exciting things that are happening with your organization today. There's explosive growth. You've just received an injection of cash through investors. It looks like you're planning to acquire a number of different companies and be gone from 30 to 150 employees in a relatively short amount of time, which is exciting, but it could be disruptive at the same time. So, you know, we're talking through these goals. We're talking about, you know, your top line revenue goals, your bottom line revenue goals. We talked a little bit about your philosophies around HR, and somewhere, you know, during this conversation, you looked up at me and was like, you know, ADP payroll guy, why are you asking me all these questions? So I'd love to explain to you what ADP's position is in the marketplace today and what we're doing to help companies that are going through the same exact thing. So I'd like to position that by showing you an income statement fashion form, how ADP is having an impact on businesses. This is a new approach to ADP, and really my goal here is to get you to look at ADP in a different light, look at ADP beyond just a payroll service provider, because I'm sure that's what you were thinking when we set up this meeting, correct?
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, when you think about ADP and you know, typically with ADP being a payroll service provider, we tend to live right here in your operating expenses. We're just another envelope on the desk ready to ship off to ADP for payment. But what if I told you that ADP could reduce your cost of goods sold? Or what if we could show you how to reduce your overall operating expenses? Or maybe even affect your taxability. I mean, would you be more interested in learning more about how we do that?
Yeah.
And really, we've seen with other companies, and I'm not sure this may be the case with your organization, how we could drive your revenue up and ultimately drive that number that you care about the most, which is your profits. So when we look at this income statement, how we can do this, it really revolves around one of your largest expenses, which is your labor, right? The wages that you're responsible for, the taxes and benefits that you pay on those wages, and then your workers' comp, right? You know, it's one of your biggest expenses, if not your biggest expense. I think in your particular company, not being manufacturing, I think it's fair to say that labor is your biggest line item, correct?
Of course, yeah.
Okay, so you know, let's call that for a company of your size, let's call it $5 million. And we find that, you know, it doesn't stop at 5 million. You know, we have studies that show that you're typically paying 1.5 times you know, more of your total wages. So let's just call that number 7.5 million. And I'm sure you have the exact number in mind, but you know, for the purposes of this conversation, 7.5 million.
Yeah.
What if we could drive this number down 2 to 3 points?
I'm interested.
You're wondering how, right?
Yeah, definitely.
So, you know, when we're talking about the state of your business and what's going on today with the acquisition, with the injection of cash through investors, with getting into new markets, the explosive growth of your company, a lot of that is going to fall on how your HR department reacts to that. Okay? So when I meet with HR directors and CFOs, they're really focused on having HR be a strategic partner, especially in growth, you know, organizations that are going through growth like yours. So when we're talking about strategic side of HR and what people like to talk about, we're talking about, you know, obviously the growth, talking about, you know, what this merger and acquisition strategy is going to look like, talent. There was a study that was put out. I mean, this is one of the biggest concerns for CFOs and HR directors today. It's the shortage of talent out there in the marketplace. It's very hard to find good people, and once you do find them, you have to keep them. So what are you doing, you know, behind the scenes to make sure that talent is happy and that talent is staying? It could be performance management. We're in a very performance-driven society today, so that obviously is a focus that we run into a lot. Maybe it's compensation strategy. You know, and there's probably other things that you're thinking about on this strategic side that, you know, we're not touching on today, but this is what's really gonna drive, you know, what you're trying to accomplish in terms of driving revenue. And then there's the side of HR that you have to do because you have employees, but it's not the sexiest thing on the planet, right? It's things like collecting time cards, processing payroll, answering questions, maintaining compliance, could be COBRA, you know, goes on and on and on and on. The things that you have to do because you have employees and that is really costing you money at the end of the day. But it's this side that's really going to be the make money side of this equation. So again, this is why you're in business, or this is why you're in business, is the strategy side, and this is because you're in business. And what we find with HR directors, well, first let me back up. When I think about HR, especially in this situation, I'm a huge basketball fan, so I think of a really good point guard, right? Your point guard is a direct extension of the coaching staff, right? They're that floor general, which would be like your HR director is to you and your CEO. They're responsible to not only having a direct impact on the organization, but making all of those people or their teammates better around them. You know, but what happens is they're getting full court pressed by all of these tactical things that they have to do that it really cannibalizes what they're trying to accomplish here. Now, why does that happen? Well, things like payroll and payroll tax and compliance, they have teeth. So if you're not doing these things right, there could be some serious risks to your business. There could be fines, there could be compliance issues, lawsuits, the list goes on and on and on. So it's very natural for somebody who is getting full court pressed by these tactical items to spend most of their time here, which we find to be anywhere between 90% to 100% of the time, and maybe 10 to 0 to 10% of the time on this tactical side. So really our goal here is how can you leverage technology and service to flip these ratios?
Yeah.
So, you know, when we're talking about, you know, your typical day in the HR payroll department, here's your little department here. You have all this inbound, you know, these tactical things are coming in at a fast rate, right? You're getting hit with time cards, you're getting hit with questions from employees, you're getting hit with government inquiries, you know, password resets, you know, the list goes on and on and on and on and on. So if you're understaffed here, or if you don't have the right tools in place, you know, there's a lot of noise that's hitting this back office at one time. But that's only half the battle, because now you got to take that information, you got to process it. You know, and other things, you know, applications and resumes coming in as you guys grow. Then you got to send communications out. You got to answer the government inquiries. You got to pay your people. You got to make sure time cards are correct. You got to, you know, on and on and on and on of information that you got to take, process, and then push back out. So what happens when this occurs, right? And you're dealing with a little bit of this today with your organization as you go out, got to get a better time system in place. Okay? We're growing, we got to pay more people, so let's get a payroll system as well. And let's say you have a benefits administration tool, because now you're benefiting more employees that need health insurance, right? So you go buy a slick benefits administration tool. You know, now you need a performance management tool. And you need to store all your people information, so you go out and buy an HR system. Well, what you've done here is you've actually scaled your business in silos. What I mean by that is none of these systems are communicating to each other. There's no data flow back and forth. And there's some seam costs that are associated with these transactions. In fact, PricewaterhouseCoopers, have you heard of them? They say that by integrating and having a single solution that handles all of this human capital management information, you could realize a cost reduction in administration of around $200 to $300 per employee. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I see it. I hear from the HR and the double, triple data entry and it's just completely consumed.
Right,
Yeah.
right. It's really hard for them to focus on these growth plans that you have for your business, right? They're spending all the time here, it's costing them money, not only in hard dollars, but the time it takes to update this information. Because if you need to update somebody, and let's say you hired somebody, you need to put them in the time management system, then you gotta turn around and put that information here, 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 and here. And same goes on the flip side, if you're getting rid of somebody or somebody's moving on, you gotta, again, update these systems. So with 150 employees and all the changes, and I'm sure that number is gonna continue to grow, you could see where it could get a little noisy in this area and take away time from the strategic side,
Yeah.
right? So what ADP, so you have a few different options here, right? I mean, here's your options. You can just stay the same. Status quo, right? You may think today, oh, everything's fine, we're growing, we're humming right along. That's an option. You can do that. Second, I mean, you could partially outsource. You can partially outsource some of these functions here. And we have great technology that will allow you to do that. You could utilize shared services. Are you familiar with shared services?
No, I'm not.
Okay, yeah, and we can educate you a little bit more about what that is, but basically it's a model that's set up that allows you to take advantage and leverage some of ADP's technology, but it also gives you people resources to leverage in the back office to handle some of these things here.
Okay.
Or there's fully outsourced models, or PEO, that are really designed to completely outsource the risk. Now, which one of these are good for your organization? I'm not entirely sure. But what I'm proposing today is that you allow us, well, first, with your executive sponsorship, you give us some time and allow ADP to come in with expertise and to really do a diagnostics on what it takes to make this happen every single day. We want to find out how much time, how much money, how many people are thrown at it, day by day, and add that up to see what that total cost of ownership is. Then ADP, my experts and I, would like to run an analysis on what it would cost for ADP to take on this responsibility, these responsibilities here. At the end of the day, it's either going to make sense financially or it's not going to make sense. But when was the last time you benchmarked your business to find out what it takes to make this happen every single day?
Since we've grown to this point where we're at, I don't think I could feel good about saying I have.
Yeah, it's good to know, right? It's not going to cost you a dime to really find out, because ADP has all the resources to really identify what's going on here. So again, all we ask is for your blessing to get together with your back office team and really find out what it takes to make this happen. And I'd like to come back with a business case and show you what our findings are and really see which one of these models are going to be the best for you, but most importantly, how we're going to help you guys focus 90 to 100% of your time on this side that's going to make you money. Does that sound good?
Yeah, it does. I'm interested.
Excellent. Well, I appreciate the time, and I'll get together with your team later to coordinate some time.